Don't eat that. Your wife put poison. The words echoed in the night, carried by the wind to the ears of a billionaire, his life hanging on the edge of a stranger's warning. Who was this child, and what did she know that no one else did? Before diving into this wild tale of betrayal, survival, and the unexpected twists that will leave you speechless, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the updates or future shocking stories like this one. The night air was sharp and cold, cutting through the streets with an intensity that left a chill in the bones. It was the kind of night where breath hung in the air like mist, and the usual noise of the city seemed muffled as though it were holding its breath. The streets were quieter than usual, with the hum of distant cars and the occasional sound of footsteps echoing through the alleys. In the shadows of a grand five-star restaurant, a small, ragged girl stood alone, watching the elegant building from behind a stack of crates. Her face, streaked with dirt, was partially hidden under a large mismatched coat that hung loosely on her small frame. The little girl, no older than 7, looked out of place in the area. Her clothes were torn and worn, the kind of clothing a child like her shouldn't have to wear. Yet there she was, standing quietly in the cold, watching with wide eyes filled with both curiosity and fear. She wasn't supposed to be there. She knew that the city's wealth and power were far beyond her world. But something inside her told her she had to be there. Something important was happening tonight, something she couldn't ignore. Her small hands clenched as she stared at the luxurious interior of the restaurant. The lights glittered inside, making the building seem almost magical, an oasis of warmth and luxury in the cold, dark night. But she wasn't drawn to the building because of its beauty or wealth. It was the man she had to warn, the one she knew would soon enter that place. Then there he was, Adam Sinclair, the billionaire. His sleek black car pulled up to the curb, the sound of its engine purring like a predator stalking its prey. The door opened and Adam stepped out, tall and commanding, his black suit fitting him perfectly. He was the kind of man who could buy anything, control anything, and everyone around him made way as he walked past. The little girl watched him with a sense of dread, her small heart beating faster. She knew something he didn't, something was wrong, and it was her job to stop it before it was too late. She had to warn him. "Don't eat that. Your wife put poison." Her voice broke the silence, echoing into the night. But the noise of the city swallowed her words, and no one even glanced her way. She stood frozen for a moment, staring after him as he walked toward the entrance. No one had heard her, no one had stopped, but she knew deep down that her warning had been heard. At least it should have been. Her words had been spoken for a reason. The cold bite of the wind seemed to sting harder as the little girl took a step forward. Her legs were shaking from both the cold and the fear, but she couldn't stand still. She had to get closer to him. She had to make him listen. Adam Sinclair had to hear her warning. There was no time to waste. She stumbled forward, her steps uncertain but determined. She had never been in a place like this before, never been so close to someone so important, someone who could change everything. But the voices in her head told her that she had to do this. She couldn't let him walk into that restaurant, sit down, and drink that glass of wine. She had to stop him before it was too late. Her small body moved quickly, dodging between cars and passing pedestrians, trying to stay unnoticed. But she was small, too small to be seen in a crowd. She didn't care. She had no time for fear, the cold biting wind, or the flickering streetlights. None of it mattered anymore. She had one job, and she couldn't fail. As she neared the entrance to the restaurant, the little girl's heart raced. She could see Adam now through the large glass doors, his broad shoulders leading him toward the table inside. His wife, Miranda, stood up to greet him, her perfect smile lighting up the room. But something in the girl's gut told her that this wasn't just a regular evening. This wasn't just any dinner. The little girl's breath came faster, her pulse quickening. She knew this was her moment and she couldn't waste it. Inside the restaurant, Adam Sinclair was already seated. His wife Miranda sat across from him, poised and calm, her cold blue eyes scanning the room as if she had all the time in the world. She looked perfect as always, her platinum blonde hair styled to perfection, her makeup flawless. But the little girl could sense something was wrong. The tension in the air was thick even from outside. Miranda's smile seemed more forced than usual, and her hands trembled as she placed a glass of wine in front of her husband. It was subtle, but the little girl noticed. There was something off. The feeling inside her grew stronger, pressing against her chest. She had to act. The door to the restaurant opened with a soft whoosh, and the little girl slipped inside. She moved quickly, staying out of sight as she made her way through the luxurious dining room, passing tables filled with rich, well-dressed patrons. She was just another shadow in the grand space. The little girl didn't know why she was doing this or how she knew what she knew, but she knew it had to be done. Adam Sinclair had to be warned. She reached the table, standing quietly behind Adam. He hadn't noticed her yet, too busy looking at his wife, but she could see the unease in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. She could see it in the way he glanced at Miranda, wondering what was going on, why the atmosphere felt so wrong. This was her chance. The little girl stepped forward, close enough now to feel the heat of Adam's body. He turned his head slightly, but before he could speak, she leaned in, her small face only inches from his ear. "Your wife, she's going to poison you," she whispered, her voice barely audible but filled with urgent fear. The words hung in the air as if the entire world paused just for a second. Adam froze, his fork stopped halfway to his mouth, and his eyes darted to the little girl beside him. He blinked in confusion, his gaze shifting between the girl and his wife, who had not yet noticed the intrusion. Adam's heart skipped a beat. The little girl's words echoed in his mind like a loud alarm. His hand trembled slightly as he set the fork down, his gaze fixed on her small face. The girl's wide eyes were filled with a fear and a knowing that Adam couldn't understand. Her warning felt real. He quickly glanced across the table at Miranda. She was still smiling, but there was a subtle change in her expression. Her eyes, once bright and confident, now seemed guarded, flicking away from his gaze for just a second too long. Adam could feel it now, the unease in his chest, the instinct that something was wrong, that something dangerous was about to happen. But he didn't know how to react. Was the little girl telling the truth? Was this a child's crazy imagination, or was it something much darker? He turned back to her, still unsure what to say. The words of the stranger who had warned him earlier echoed in his mind. But this felt different. This little girl had come to him directly, whispered to him in a way that no one else had. There was an urgency in her voice, a kind of desperation that made it impossible for Adam to ignore. Miranda, sensing the tension, shot him a sharp glance. Her smile started to falter. She stood up quickly, her movements too abrupt. "What's going on, Adam?" she asked, trying to play it cool, but her voice betrayed her. There was something in her eyes now, something that didn't belong. Adam stood, his mind racing. He didn't know what to think, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't ignore the little girl's warning. "Take the food away," he commanded, his voice shaking slightly, his eyes locked with Miranda's. "Take it away now." Adam's voice cut through the tension in the room like a knife. The waiter, who had been hovering in the background, rushed forward, his eyes wide with confusion but moving quickly. Miranda, standing opposite him, knocked her chair back in frustration. "How dare you accuse me of something like that?" she hissed, her voice sharp with anger. But even Adam could hear the fear in her tone just beneath the surface. Her cool facade was slipping for the first time. He saw her mask crack. He could see the fear behind her eyes, the hesitation. "You don't know what you're talking about," she snapped, but her voice was shaky. Adam didn't believe her. The little girl's warning played over and over in his head, each repetition making his chest tighten. He knew the truth now. His wife had been planning to kill him. He turned to the waiter, still frozen at his side, and repeated firmly, "Take the food away." "Now." The waiter nodded, confusion still written on his face, as he rushed to take the plates away. Miranda's anger flared, but she couldn't hide the panic in her eyes. She was exposed now. As Miranda stood, Adam could see the cracks forming. The truth was out. She had been planning this for months, maybe even years. The perfect life they had built together was nothing more than a lie. Miranda had been planning his death all along. I was going to do it," Miranda whispered, her voice breaking, her eyes filled with tears as the reality of her actions sank in. "I didn't want to do it alone. I thought I could get away with it. I thought I could take everything." Adam stood frozen, his heart heavy. The woman he had loved, the woman he had trusted, had betrayed him in the worst way possible. The weight of it hit him like a tidal wave. Outside, the little girl stood in the shadows, watching the scene unfold. Her heart pounded in her chest. She knew she had done the right thing, but there was no sense of victory in it. She had done what needed to be done, and now she had to disappear. The sirens were getting closer, their sound growing louder. She could hear the police coming. Adam would be safe now, but she wasn't looking for thanks. She didn't need anyone to know her name. She turned away and melted into the shadows. A ghost in the night, her mission complete. The sound of police sirens grew louder. Miranda was arrested, her face pale with shock. Adam stood still, his mind still reeling from the revelation. He had trusted her, loved her, and now he knew it had all been a lie. The little girl had saved him, and she was gone just like that. Adam couldn't stop thinking about the little girl. Who was she? How had she known? He hired investigators to find her, but she was gone. No one knew where she had gone, or even who she was. She had saved his life, and now she was a mystery. The days passed, and the media covered Miranda's arrest. Adam's name was everywhere, but the little girl's name was never mentioned. No one would ever know who she was, but Adam would never forget her. She had saved him, and in doing so, had changed everything. She didn't need recognition. She didn't need thanks. She had done what needed to be done, and for her, that was enough. In the end, Adam's life was saved, not by wealth or power, but by a homeless little girl who warned him of his wife's deadly plot. Miranda was arrested, but the girl vanished as quickly as she had appeared, leaving Adam with more questions than answers. No one would ever know her name, but her actions changed everything. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest weight, and the quietest heroes make the biggest difference. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more gripping tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat.